The first batch of college football playoff rankings are out, and yeah, it's not good for Miami.
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
I am Alex Donno, University of Miami alumnus, co-host of Locked On ACC, and host of Postgame on the Hurricanes Radio Network. And thank you so much to the everydayers for making Locked On Canes your first or your second listen. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. And just so we're clear on this, if you're watching this channel for the first time, I'm not completely delusional. I had zero expectation heading into the Tuesday night college football playoff rankings. I had zero expectation that Miami would be in the top 12. I do live on planet Earth, believe it or not. I guess my hope was if Miami was going to give themselves any opportunity in the situation, which is not a guarantee, if they are able to run the table and finish the season 10-2, if they were going to have an opportunity maybe to be in position to sneak in the back door of the top 12 by the end of the season, if you were ranked in the 15 to 16 range, you might have been in striking distance of doing that. But I had no illusions. Miami's first loss a few weeks ago to the Louisville Cardinals, I knew that was one that they could afford. They could afford a mulligan. If they were able to go 11-1, they could have an opportunity, but you really couldn't afford to lose another game. And then when that happened against SMU, the position became precarious, okay? But again, I was hoping if there maybe was a miracle and an opportunity, if you're ranked in the 14 to 16 range, you could maybe be able to climb up that ladder. And, every team in the country has about 4 games left to play, plus conference championship games. So 4 to 5 before the final, CFP tally comes out. So I don't know what Miami's probability is, if it's 1%, if it's 3%. Like there is, I'm sure, a chaos possibility that if enough teams within the top 12 cannibalize one another and Miami wins out, maybe you could get in. But this doesn't look good. So this was unveiled here Tuesday night on ESPN. The Miami Hurricanes come in at number 18, which is probably too far out of the mix to think about getting in, and it's not a good showing for the ACC in general. So let's count this thing down for the audio listeners that don't see the graphic. Tennessee Volunteers at 25th. Then if you count down from there, Pittsburgh 24, Washington, Mizzou, Michigan, Iowa at number 20, USC, then Miami at number 18, then Georgia Tech at 17. Georgia Tech just lost for the first time, and they get dumped all the way down to number 17. The ACC doesn't get a whole lot of respect. Vanderbilt at 16. Louisville, who beat Miami, they're 15th. Virginia is the highest ranked ACC team at 14. Not a good look for the conference. Now, somebody's got to get into the CFP because whoever wins the ACC is going to get a bid. And then you got Utah at 13, Oklahoma 12, Texas 11, Notre Dame at 10. Now, this is another one that is it's not surprising, but it does make me a little angry. All right, so you have Miami at 6-2. Notre Dame at 6-2, and one of their 2 losses was head-to-head against Miami, and yet the Fighting Irish come in 8 spots ahead of the Hurricanes, despite the head-to-head loss and identical records. Now, I was watching the show on ESPN where they unveiled these, and Greg McElroy and Joey Galloway were the studio analysts, and man, they were harsh on the Hurricanes, right? When Miami came in at number 18, they were like really excited, like, hey, this means the committee is watching the games because Miami's been heading in the wrong direction and Notre Dame has been so good. And again, like, they're not wrong. I watched Miami commit 12 penalties and completely self-destruct against SMU. Like, I watched that. Overtime loss, but, this team does not deserve to be in the top 12, but this whole head-to-head thing not mattering is crazy to me. How Miami has the head-to-head win, and I'm a Miami guy, and I'm saying this, but there are national hosts saying the same thing. Ari Wasserman from the Andy and Ari show on 3 Sports has actually been very vocal before these rankings came out in saying that in his mind, Miami does deserve to be ranked ahead of Notre Dame because of the head-to-head situation with the identical records. But I wasn't expecting it. Hearing Heather Dinich, college football reporter, who she keeps a really close beat on the CFP committee, and she seemed to kind of know what they were thinking before these first batch of rankings came out. And it was her expectation that they would value the fact that Notre Dame's been surging while Miami's been faltering, and that they would overlook the head-to-head game and that they would rank Notre Dame ahead of Miami, which is exactly what they did. I don't even know if I haven't finished counting this down yet. So Notre Dame at number 10, Oregon 9th, Texas Tech 8, BYU 7, Ole Miss, and then the top 5 is UGA, Alabama at number 4, Texas A&M at number 3, and then you got the Big Ten at the top. Indiana at number 2, and Ohio State at number 1. Ohio State hasn't exactly had a gauntlet of a schedule so far, because the Texas team that they beat, I don't think was as good as anyone expected. But, to be the champ, you got to beat the champ. Ohio State, the defending national champion, so I can understand them being ranked number 1. But, yeah, I mean, listen, if, from a Miami point of view, I get it. They earned their way outside of the top 12, that within a 3-game span, you can't lose to Louisville and lose 2 weeks later or 2 games later against SMU and play the way that they played in those games and expect to be ranked in the top 12. I understand that, but I was hoping they would get a bit of a better bounce here and maybe be in the top 15, top 16, be within striking range. And I was hoping they would be ranked closer to Notre Dame, if not ahead of Notre Dame, given the head-to-head situation. And a lot of Notre Dame fans have been, very politely and cordially messaging me on social media this week and saying, like, hey, well, if they were to line it up this week at a neutral site, who do you think would be favored? Notre Dame would be favored. Like, if you're going by the hypothetical, Notre Dame and Miami were playing this weekend, Fighting Irish would probably be favored by a touchdown or more. I understand that, but hypothetical versus what actually happened on a field. These teams lined it up, and Miami defeated Notre Dame. I still feel like the actual game played on grass should be weighed higher than the hypothetical played inside your head. That's the way it used to be in college football. And listen, I know, I don't usually say nice things about Florida State, and I wouldn't say this is a nice thing, but it is sympathetic because, I was one of the few Miami people who thought, 2 years ago that, Florida State got hosed, like not making it into the CFP despite earning it at 13-0 and ACC champs, but they kept him out, the committee, because they thought, without Jordan Travis, they don't stand a chance, so we're not even going to put them in the playoff. And yeah, they were probably right about them not standing a chance, but actually earning it on the field should matter. I think earning your way into the CFP should matter. And again, Miami's outside of this top 12 for reasons where they only have themselves to blame, right? But you would have at least liked to be in a situation where if you do manage to finish out the season with 4 straight wins, that you could have an opportunity to maybe climb back in. And I'm pretty pessimistic based on these rankings. And again, this is nothing mathematic about this. It is not set in stone. But at number 18, it's going to be really, really difficult, if not impossible, for Miami to climb out of it. And then again, there's no guarantee you win out. I mean, Miami faces a struggling Syracuse team this Saturday at home, which on paper should be an easy victory. Syracuse has really been in the gutter for the past 5 games. Then you face an NC State team who's been really hot and cold this season, but they're coming off a huge win against Georgia Tech, and quarterback C.J. Bailey has been red hot. That's not an easy game following the Syracuse game. Then after that, you play at Virginia Tech, who's not very good, but they've been playing a little bit better recently. Miami should win that one. And then against Pittsburgh on the road to end the season. That one's a toss-up. Pittsburgh and their freshman quarterback, Mason Heinschel, who's been awesome since he took over that starting job. Will not be an easy game by any stretch. But I would have liked to think that if Miami could win out and finish 10-2, that they would have an opportunity. But honestly, it's looking like even in that scenario, if Miami were to go 10-2, it would probably play out the exact same way that it played out last year, that you would be just on the outside looking in. And I got to say, from a bigger picture, because I cover the ACC on Locked On ACC here on this awesome podcast network. ACC's highest ranked team is number 14. And it's looking like the ACC is going to be a one-bid league, which is really sad, and it's a bad look for the conference. And if you're in a situation where, like if UVA, who, has obviously played really well and they punched above their weight this year, but UVA is a tiny brand when it comes to football. And I think if UVA were to win the ACC and you match them up with any of the heavy hitters inside the top 12, I think they're going to get steamrolled in a playoff game. So if Georgia Tech is the team that makes it, I think they could match up reasonably well with some of the big boys and at least be competitive. But if it's UVA, if it's a one-bid league, and Virginia, which is a brand hardly anybody watches on TV when it comes to football, and a team that I believe would be too flawed to compete with the top teams in the country, they get steamrolled in the first round, and they're the only team from the ACC in there. The conference is going to just be a laughingstock, as it often is. Like, the ACC is going to be even more of a punchline if that happens. So I would hope that, and also if Louisville were to win the conference, I think that team could potentially be competitive, because all that Jeff Brom does is upset top 5 teams. He does that every single year. So maybe Louisville could be a good representative. Georgia Tech, maybe, Miami, if they were to get in, but if it's a one-bid league and it's UVA, I would be very, very scared to see how that would play out in the college football playoff. So let me know what you guys think. And again, I know, I'm not surprised or upset that Miami is not in the top 12. Hurricanes have themselves to blame for that, but I was hoping they'd be a little higher, and I was hoping that the Notre Dame flip-flop thing wouldn't happen. Because again, the head-to-head should matter. It should, even if it takes place week 1. Make sure to smash the like button, subscribe to Locked On Canes, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcast, subscribe on YouTube, and we'll talk to you again tomorrow. We'll talk with Calvin Harris, who, by the way, Calvin Harris still believes that Miami will be a playoff team at the end of the year. We'll find out why. He's a former Miami center, by the way. We'll talk to you again next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.